Perfect. So, good morning, everyone. I will now speak about this complex theme, and I want to tell you a bit about the drama we're facing in our business. We have this price raise, the buyer isn't paying enough. So, let's look at this by observing the data and that will give us a different idea. So what's happening to the prices? What's happening to the prices in the rendering industry? So let's look at North America mainly. You can see that we have the price for fat here. So we have fats and proteins. So there's a decrease from 2022 to the present. When we look at meals like uh, meat and bones, we go from 65.4%, and we also have a few more uh, data that the prices are decreasing, but that wasn't the case always. When we evaluate the metrics, we can see that since 2019, we had a significant growth both in meals but also in fats because of the boom we had in baits from the United States. It was a significant growth, and we have important spikes here. And evaluating data like this throughout time.
What do we see now? That we have a
So
growth that the market is from moved from $1,400 for this product. And the question that I ask you to think of, I wonder, are we in a crisis or are we making calculus with numbers that are very transitioning? So that shows us some of the metrics of the prices in the market. But let's get to know what could be the causes of what is happening. We have two potential niches or focus of the problem. One, we're talking about the fats, right? And we have said numerous times, for instance, of China, uh, a topic. So it's hard for us to tell what is happening. But what about palm and soy? That these are some of the problems of exporting palm and soy. They are oxidating. I don't know whether this is true or not. When it comes to Brazil, Brazil grew. It's exporting and will also have an amount of myths. And what do we want to know? Let's focus on a specific case of Colombia. Colombia, the prices of the mules are low. Let's see the figures here. Today we have blocks in terms of exports in Vietnam. And this has been taking a toll on this, as well as the slaughters in the United States. What are the reasons why this is happening? What do we have to do? We have to focus on data. China, when it comes to UCO in China, we're talking about the used kitchen oil, everything that has to do with exports of this. When you see 2019, China exported 732 tons of these grease, yellow grease. And in 2023, we reached it up to 2 million tons. This is a significant increase. And up to now, it has exported 1.5 million tons of 1,000 tons of yellow grease. The concern about last year was different because the price dropped as well when it comes to the used cooking oil. Let's see some of these graphs. When we see these graphs, the bar of 2023, we have here 2 million tons. And in gray, we have United States that exports around 800 million tons per year. But when we see in 2024, we're talking about 672 million tons up to July. And what do I mean? The figures that we're going to have this year are going to be significantly greater than last year. So the concern is the UCO, which is the boom of the United States, that plays this figures here on the table for us to discuss this collectively. So here we see month per month the exports of China. We have 200 of tons of exports. And how can they do that? It's very interesting. We are going, let's see what is interesting. Let's talk about the United States. Just a second here. When we see the month per month of the United States, we see, oh, we have ships worth of 12 million tons of UCO. In December, we saw these numbers ramping up. So what is the impact? Where is the decrease of prices? Let's see the American perspective. If I confront China to what has happens in the United States, let's see what happens. We perceive that the exports of 2022 of fats of China and US were very low. But thinking of what United States brought, we have 800,000 tons, which says that I have a growth of 1,663%. So what happens? The normal and normal behaviors. Uh, on this curve here, the yellow is what United States is bringing from China, and this was brought from Canada. And what do we understand here? If we have a phenomena, obviously we have more important players to the table, like Australia, Brazil, and now they are also part of the whole structure. And obviously, when we have this growth peak with more offer and lower price, and this is what brings about these important elements. Here on the right, this is very important. When we see the month per month of the reports of the United States, and we think about 2024 with this light blue line, it's a significant increase when it comes to 2023. So we're talking about very big volumes, yet with a decrease of prices in the United States. What about China? Look at the China's curve in 2023 with concerning 2024. We're it's almost reaching what it we had last year in July. The answers are in the numbers and the metrics and the analytics that tells what is happening in the industry. Let's see what is happening with the palm and soy oil. So they said, oh, the Chinese are importing more and they are oxidating. Let's see whether this is a myth or not. These are the imports of China from 19 to 24 in terms of palm and soy oil. Almost all the volume comes from Indonesia and Malaysia, and opposed to what we thought, there's a decrease in terms of the imports of vegetable oil. So they are not importing it to make it oxidate. And this is it's a local product. It's not an imported product. Let's move on to another topic. Just so you know, in 2019, we had 7.3 million tons. In 2023, which was the more critical one, we have 5.7 thousand. So we have answers for these big questions that we are posing through months now. Let's talk about Brazil then, and see whether we're talking about the same dynamic. The Brazilian meals are conquering the world. But let's see what are the metrics and how is this process going. Let's see the cause that is being generated. What are you seeing here in yellow is the growth of the imports of used cooking oil. Where did it go? To the United States. It's no mystery. You can see the peaks that is going to show that in December last year we had over 50,000 tons, 50 million tons to the United States. But if I move back, the curve is now purple. And when I look at the meal and blood, the meat and blood meals. This is very interesting. Let's see to where the exports of these products are going to. Let's evaluate 2023. We see a very interesting increase to Chile, Vietnam, Colombia, that nowadays represent a big part of the market, a big share of the market when it comes to this product globally wise. So these models, they represent a big opportunity for all these markets and destinations, which makes the lives of the local producers easier. What happens with Colombia? Let's see a destination country, a big consumer. Here on the left, you see the exports of the animal products and the different exporting countries to Colombia. It's a product that highlights here is the meals. So here we have everything together: swine, poultry, and beef. 2019, Uruguay was the leading export country to Colombia. But what happened? We have this line that is purple, and the United States becomes the leading exporting country in Colombia. Then in 2022, we have the sanitarian agreements between Brazil and the United States to Colombia, and there's an increase, actually the imports of these products from by Colombia. Here we have all the management that was done to have new commodities in the Colombian market. So it's a very important growth of the Brazilian market in Colombia. It's a decrease of the presence of United States as other countries like Uruguay. And this is something that I have to tell you. There's a player that you're not seeing, which is a very light blue, and it starts appearing here in Colombia. Who is this? It's the EU. We started seeing a new offer of products that found their own room in this part of the world. And this represents big challenges, probably, yeah, but also very lots of opportunities that comes from the diversity of commodities, quality demand, and possibility of creation, as well as job scheme, and allows you that you as consumers that you can have better negotiations, and the data shows us that in real time. And Spain with a very important role in this red color. Here we have the transformation of the Colombian market, Chile, Mexico. These are very interesting. The goal here was to really show the reality that we have in the country that we are nowadays. So I would like to tell you a little bit about the exportation of fat. In Brazil, we had a significant change, an increase in terms of biodiesel too. And here we have an enhancement in September 2021 with almost 7,000 tons of exports. Brazil sees this opportunity. This is something growing for Colombia and Chile. We have seen this before, even though the important demand that we had around 65,000 tons. This is a volume that it's very important for Colombia. You can see this in the graph. Regardless, it doesn't really matter like how the local demand is like, but we're talking about historical parameters with regards to 65,000 tons. In 2022, we have countries with important impacts. We also have historical prices of over $1,400,000 in the American market. And then we have a massive exportation from Argentina to United States. Before it sent it to Uruguay, and then in 2022 there's a door that opened for them to send it to the United States. In 2023, we have China sends more than 2.2 million of fat to the US. So they export over 2.2 million worth of fat to the United States. 36% of the fat exportation is comes from used cooking oil. And in China, we're talking about over 30% for biodiesel. And in Brazil, 1.8 of total, representing almost 180,000 tons last year. this year, 2024, how are we doing? Here we have a lower price since 2022. It's below $950. And I mean, we knew that. Many people will say it, but the thing is, we have to agree that there's an importance in the data analysis. How do we see the market with regards to the future of Mexico and Colombia? They will have important drops with regards to the meals, the metrics with which we're working with, or the ones that provided us with this basis of understanding with to see the efficiency and also allows us to satisfy the market in a much more efficient way or effective way. In 2024, what will the future bring? Is this going to get better? This is the $1 million question. So let's see. The red topics here are countries that had an impact in another aspect. Orange, we're talking about the cause of this impact. United States, here we have the sense of the eco export. So the price of the market dropped, so it generates a domino effect in terms of what happens in the United States. Local products, they cannot really compete with Brazil's offer. I listen to this like on and on. Probably yes or no. The idea here is how we can understand these competitive advantages for the Brazilian exports to play this game and also the Colombian ones. I mean, when it comes to the total portion of this pizza here, so what is the share that is going to correspond to us? So this is it's a conundrum because these other players also felt the impact of the price drop in the United States. And why do they export a lot that much? Singapore, they react in terms of what happens to the United States with the people from New Zealand and close areas. We're also going to see an impact concerning this values, these amounts. Sorry, the speaker microphone is has a problem. So here it shows a crescent, ongoing increase in Spain. Here we have other regions that can also try to meet this demand. In the future, besides dropping the prices and the volume of exports, we also have the growing perspective still this year, 2024, and possibly if we keep this growing, we're going to see this results in 2025. So the thing is, if the volume keeps increasing, as you can see that the prices might drop, there are many elements for us to take into account. There's a big percentage of the American market. And here we gotta build better strategies to develop other issues. In a market situation, we have analyzed different statistics. What we export from China is very little still, which represents other opportunities for biodiesel because they still don't have a big share of the market. Thanks to the drops in terms of sales and exports to UCO, this is still profitable for China. To wrap up, the importing markets, they come from the origin countries with regards to the meals. So if they import 17,000, the volume is very constant. So for me to gain in terms of volume in a market, I gotta get a portion of someone else. And this figure is going to become a constant throughout time. This phenomena reflects from the drop of the prices of the local products when it comes to the imports. So it's very likely that the figures might stabilize the same way as we have it today, even though if the economy ramps up, it's important to see what we were able to analyze concerning a detailed forecast of what we do every day with the information from aduanas, government, so on and so forth, to understand what is the direction that we should move to. So hopefully that this information that we showed you today is useful. Take into account the context of exports and imports of this kind of meal. Thank you so much.